So let us continue the discussion. In the last class, we were discussing the topic time of supply. And I told you that there are three sections of time of supply, section 12, 13 and 14. Section 12 tells me the timing of supply in case supply of goods is happening. Section 13 tells me the time of supply in case supply of services are happening. Supply of services is happening. And section 14 tells me the time of supply when there is a change in the tax rate of supply of goods or services or both. The relevance of time of supply is that it tells you the point in time when liability to pay tax arises. So at what time a supplier or the person who is liable to pay tax has become officially liable because of this topic time of supply, we will get to know this. It tells me the date that on this date I am liable to pay the tax. When it has to be paid, so some extra timing is given. That is known as prescribed due dates. So time of supply tells you when you have become liable. It doesn't mean that today on that date you have to deposit the tax also. For deposit, you will be given some extra time. So that we will discuss later on. Now we were discussing section 12 subsection 2 and we have discussed 12 subsection 2. In case of supply of goods, when supplier is liable to pay the tax, then it depends whether you are that supplier who has opted to pay tax under composition levy scheme or you are that supplier who has not opted to pay tax under composition levy scheme. In case you have opted to pay tax under composition levy scheme, then there were different dates and you have to check the earliest date. In case you are a supplier who has not opted to pay tax under composition levy scheme, then answer is simple. Actual date of invoice or the last date by which invoice is to be issued under section 31, that's it. In case of a supplier who is not opting to pay tax under composition levy scheme, date of receipt of payment does not matter. This is what we have discussed in the last lecture. I hope it is clear to you. Please raise your hand if you are clear with this concept which I have discussed in brief. Please raise your hand if you know this point or if you remember our last lecture. Now let us proceed with next subsection, section 12 subsection 3. So let us start it. I hope my notepad is visible to you. Time of supply, continue. So now I am discussing section 12 subsection 3. It is that supply of goods where the recipient is liable to pay the tax. Not supply where the recipient is liable to pay the tax. And I don't know whether you remember or not, but do you remember under which section recipient is liable to pay the tax? It was section 9.4 and 9.5 of CGST and 5.4 and 5.5 of IGST. These are the sections which deals with reverse charge mechanism situations. These are the sections which deals with reverse charge mechanism cases. So there are some selected supply of services and goods. The recipient is liable to pay the tax. So section 12.3 is basically applicable to such supplies where this recipient will be liable to pay the tax on which date. This is what this section will tell me. So here also I will apply the same concept, earliest of the following date. So time of supply is earliest of the following date. earliest of the following date. First point, being a recipient, then I will think from now these eyes are of the recipient. So now all these points will be through the eyes of the recipient, not the supplier. So we will check receiving. So date of receipt of goods. This is first point. Date of receiving payment. Not receiving payment, because now as a recipient I'm receiving the goods, but I have to make the payment. So date of payment. Date of payment. Third, the date immediately following. (30 days from the date of immediately following). So it is the standard time, 30 days from the date of issuing tax invoice or any other document in lieu of tax invoice. By the supplier. So this date is extra 30 days by the supplier. So here supplier has also come into picture. So this is what section 12 subsection 3 is, that it is applicable on those supply of goods which are taxable on reverse charge basis. And there are 3 dates and you have to check the earliest date. As a recipient, when you have received the goods. As a recipient, when you have made the payment. And third point is that when the supplier has issued the invoice, then you take extra 30 days. So these 30 days are granted extra. I will show this with the help of the numerical. Now what do you mean by this date of payment? This is the main concern. This date of payment. What is this date? It depends. It is just like earlier example. Like this point. It is just like section 12 subsection 2. In 12 subsection 2, I was checking the point date on which supplier received the payment. Supplier. So I was checking 2 dates. Date on which payment is entered in the books of account of the supplier, and date on which amount is credited in the bank account of the supplier. Now I will see from the recipient point of view, date on which a recipient made the payment. So same concept, but now I will say that date on which a recipient made the payment is earliest of what? Date on which payment is entered in the books of account of the recipient. And similarly, date on which amount is debited in the book of account of the recipient. So I simply wanted to show you that I am not discussing any new point, it is same. So what is this date of payment? So I will make some notes. So note 1. How to determine the date of payment? Earliest of, or earlier of what? Date on which the payment is entered in the it is same. Earlier in section 12 subsection 2 it was from the point of view of the supplier, now it is from the point of the view of the recipient. That only you should remember, date on which payment is entered in the books of account of the recipient. Or date on which the payment is debited, because now as a recipient I have to make the payment. Date on which the payment is debited in the bank account of the recipient. This is what the point is. So this is my one note. So in this case, how do you determine the time of supply? Receiving goods date, payment date, and date immediately following 30 days. But so many times it is possible that none of the date is available. Neither the recipient knows when he or she has received the goods, neither the recipient knows when the payment is made, nor the supplier has issued the invoice. Then what is happening? Or what will happen? Second point, if none of the above dates is available, then what will you do? If none of the above dates are available, then what will you do? In that case, the time of supply is the date of entry, simple entry, date of entry in the books of account of the recipient. That means when you don't know, suppose you do not know, what you don't know is date of receipt of goods. As a recipient, you don't know when you have received the goods. When you don't know when you have made the payment. When you don't know the invoice issued by the supplier. Suppose invoice has not been issued by the supplier. Invoice issued by the supplier, you don't know that. So you cannot compute it. Then government says if you don't know anything, at least have you made any rough entry in your books or not that you have received such goods or such services. So that simple date of entry will become the answer when you don't have date of receipt of goods or services, date of payment or invoice issued by the supplier. Then only option you have available is this. At least somewhere you know that somewhere you made the entry or not. Now see one example. Determine the time of supply in the following situation. So there are 4 dates available. 4 July 20 on which A Limited is the recipient receives goods on which reverse charge mechanism is applicable. So I received the goods. So as a recipient, I have become liable. Then on an average around after 8 days, what is happening is that I actually received the goods. On 4 July, I should not use receive the goods. Let me make a change. Supplier issues the invoice, issues the tax invoice, not receiving, to A Limited. But after 8 days, I received the goods. after 18 days approximately, A Limited made the payment and thus entered in the books of account. And on 31st July, A Limited's bank account is debited. Because it is possible that on 30th July, the payment is made through check. And next day the check was encashed. So technically debit will happen on 31st July. But since I made the payment through check, I entered in the books of account. Is the example clear? Is the question clear? Please raise your hand. Is the question clear? Then I will solve it. Is the question clear? Please raise your hand. Question समझ आया सबको? On initially, supplier invoices the goods in my name. After some days, I received the goods. After some day, I made the payment through check and made entry in my records. And on the very next day, after I made entry, the amount is actually debited. Is the question clear? Please raise your hand. If not clear, please ask me the doubt. Solution I will do. But I want to ask whether question itself is clear or not. Now, what is the solution? How do you determine the time of supply in this case? First point, is it a supply of goods or services or change in rate? Always you should check this. So it's a supply of goods, this is sure. Second point, it is a supply of goods, this is sure. If goods, then I have only section 12. Within section 12, is this a supply on which supplier is liable to pay the tax? Answer is no, because RCM is applicable, reverse charge mechanism, so recipient is liable to pay the tax. So I have to apply section 12.3. And if I apply section 12.3, the time of supply is earliest of the following. So there are three dates. First date. What was my first date? Date of receipt of goods. When you received the goods, 12 July. This is first date. Date of receipt of goods. When you have received the payment, not receiving the payment, actually I should use when you are making the payment as a recipient. Now for making the payment, further you have earliest of two dates. Books, entry in the books and amount debited. Which is early? 30th July or 30? Answer is 30th July. So I will write 30th July. Date of payment. Earliest 30th July 2020 or 31st July 2020. Okay, earliest. And the third is date immediately following 30 days from the date when invoice is issued by the supplier. Supplier invoices the goods on 4 July. So from the date, and I told you that when you say from, under any act in India, not only GST, any act in India, until and unless specifically is written, then your from does not start from this 4th. From will start from next day. So from means starting from 5th July. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 31, 1, 2, 3. So 3rd August 2020 will be the 30th day. And I am using the word immediately following 30. So answer will be 4th August 2020. That is the date immediately following following 30 days. Now this, which is early, 12 July. So this becomes the time of supply. As a recipient, I am liable to pay the tax on 12 July, but it does not mean that I should deposit also on 12 July. I can deposit by 20th August. So that I will tell you later on, that for monthly in any month, whatever is the dates of liability to pay the tax, you have 12 days extra of the next month. You have 20 days extra of the next month. That I will explain later on. So I am not telling you the date of deposit of tax. I am telling you the date on which I have become liable to pay the tax. Please raise your hand if the concept is clear in this point. If the answer is clear, please raise your hand. If you have any doubt, you ask me also. Those who have not understood, they can ask me. Next point otherwise. Now I am not showing you the act. Now I am telling you the direct concept. I am not showing you the act now, because now I think you are very much familiar with the act. Next point. Section 12. Section 4. 12 subsection 4. Now what happens in case of vouchers are given? Supply of vouchers. Now practically I have covered both the topics of the supplier. When supplier is liable to pay the tax, or when the recipient is liable to pay the tax. Now third and subsection 4 is supply of vouchers. What happens when vouchers are supplied? So many times you receive vouchers which you can encash. I can be having a shoe voucher. I can be having any voucher to eat pizza of any Domino's. So many times when we do shopping and when our points are accumulated, vouchers are given which I can encash to purchase a wristwatch, to purchase some perfume. So many times vouchers are issued. Now vouchers are also defined in the Act. For that you can read the definition yourself, because I have told you that when you read the Act, don't frame your own definition. First, every single word has to be checked carefully. So voucher section 2 clause 118, you can read, it's easy. Now in vouchers, what is the time of supply? There are two types of vouchers. In case of some vouchers, it is possible that you know what you can purchase from that voucher. You know what you can purchase from that voucher. And there are some vouchers in which you don't know what you can purchase, but you can purchase anything. So situation number 1 is when supply is identifiable. When supply is identifiable at the time of supply of the voucher. And so many times it is possible that when supply is not identifiable, at the time of supply of voucher. When supply is not identifiable at the time of supply voucher. Now when we have received the voucher and at that time you know that you can purchase only this product, then what is the time of supply? The date of issue of voucher or supply of voucher. When you receive when the voucher is issued, that becomes the time of supply. And when you don't know that for what it can be encashed or not encashed, it can be redeemed, then you have to wait till actually redemption happens, because for different products you are having different rates. So then government says, then no issue. Then date of redemption of voucher is the time of supply. Let me give you an example. Suppose SBI online banking. I am also using SBI online banking. Now, when we make the payment through online banking, automatically some accounts, some points are accumulated, and after some time you can encash those points. Now, those can be not encashed. I should not use the word encash. Those can be redeemed. Now, those points can be redeemed to purchase so many different things, shoes, recharge, etc., etc. But let me assume that if as an online bank, or rather than using the name of SBI online banking, let me assume that X Limited, a shoe company, has given some vouchers on 17th July 2020, has issued, I should use the word, has issued some vouchers on 17 July 20, so that these can be redeemed by the persons who will purchase these vouchers, by the persons till 14th September, till 14th September 2021, till 14th September 2021. In fact, I should not use the so much timeline. Let me call it as 15th April 2021. And suppose these are, rather than some, let me assume that there are 1000 vouchers issued at some discount, etc., whatever is the case. On 17 July, 1000 vouchers were issued so that these can be redeemed till 15th April 21. Now, it's not necessary that and all the vouchers will be redeemed. It's not necessary. Maybe some of the people will take and not redeem it. So I don't know whether these all will be redeemed or not. Government says, since you know that when you issued the vouchers that these can be redeemed to purchase the shoes. These can be redeemed to purchase the shoes. So you know at the time of issuing a voucher which goods or which is the supply which will happen in future. So the supply which will happen is supply of shoes. Now in this case, the time of supply is not the date of redemption. I will not, as a government, I will not wait for when these will be actually redeemed. The time of supply will become 17th July 20. So this X Limited is liable to pay the tax on 17th July 20. What is the date of deposit? That will be 20th August 20, but that I will explain to you later. So on this date I become liable to pay the tax. In the same example, if I assume, if in the same example I assume that same date, the vouchers can be utilized, or the same vouchers can be redeemed, though I am a shoe manufacturing company, but the same vouchers can be redeemed to purchase. Suppose this shoe manufacturing company has a shopping mall also, and in that shopping mall, or this shoe company has 1000 or 100 shopping malls across India, and in that mall, if company says that these vouchers can be purchased, can be redeemed to purchase anything in, you can give the name of any mall, in Sushant Mall, Noida UP, for example. It's an example only. That you can purchase anything from these vouchers you can redeem this voucher for purchasing anything in Sushant Mall, Noida, UP. Then at the time of issue, I don't know as a company or no one knows that against which goods this voucher will be redeemed. So how can you know the rate of tax? So in that case, government says that time of supply is the date of redemption. For example, Mr. X who has purchased this voucher has redeemed his one voucher, has redeemed his one voucher to purchase a briefcase, then the time of supply on 2nd Jan 2021, on 2nd Jan 2021. So the time of supply will become 2nd Jan 2021 for this one voucher. When another voucher will be redeemed by another person, then the time of supply will become that date. This is what the point is. In case the voucher supply is identifiable at the time of issue of voucher, the time of supply will become the date of issue of voucher. If the supply is not identifiable, then you have to wait till these vouchers are redeemed separately. Please raise your hand if this voucher point is also.
Sir, what will happen if some of the vouchers are not redeemed in the first case after 15th of April?
Your voice is not clear. What will happen if some?
Sir, if some of the vouchers are not redeemed in first case.
In first case?
Yes, sir, when supply is identifiable.
Yeah, when supply is identifiable, then I need to check what will happen. First of all, one thing is sure that initially I have to pay the tax on the entire 1000 voucher. But now, for example, 400 vouchers remain unredeemed. Then I need to check whether refund can be claimed or not. So that I need to check. I don't know the answer right now. Point clear?
Yes, sir.
I need to note down this one. Is there anyone who can throw some light on this question? I also don't know exact answer. Is there anyone who can throw some light on this question? The question is that this is the question. I hope it is visible. The question is that in this first case, when supply is identifiable at the time of supply, I am collecting as a government. I am collecting the tax on entire 1000 vouchers. But for example, out of this, 200 vouchers remains unredeemed. Never 200 vouchers have been redeemed. So in that case, can I claim refund? One thing is sure that initially I have to pay the entire tax on 1000 vouchers. But the question arises, as this supplier, can I claim refund on this unredeemed 200 vouchers? I think answer should be yes, but I cannot tell you the exact answer. Is the question clear? What this girl has raised, is the question clear? Okay, so I also need to check. Just I need to verify, because I think the refund is allowed, but still I should be sure enough. So I'm not sure enough on this one. If for example some vouchers, let me note down this question, remain unredeemed, then can refund be claimed? I think yes, but still not sure. Till I get back to you, you have to keep this point pending. Please raise your hand if you have understood the question as well as my point of view, which I have. Please raise your hand if the discussion is clear. And if you can throw some light, then of course we all can learn from your insight also.
Sir, I think I have an opinion on this.
Yes, yes.
Sir, I think that like when they issue the vouchers, at that time it is not known that whether they will be redeemed or not. So in the beginning, the company has to pay the tax. But let us say that it is given in this case that it should be used until 15th of April. So after 15th of April, they'll get to know ki whether they are redeemed or not. So I think the month in which the coupons expire, the return for that month can include the request for refund of tax.
Yeah, that is what I also believe, but still I should be 100% sure. That is the only point. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Please raise your hand if you have understood the concerns on this point. Okay, so voucher is over, and next point now. So almost all the cases of suppliers are clear. Almost all the cases of suppliers are clear. Almost all the cases. Almost all the cases means when supplier is liable to pay the tax, we have section 12 subsection 2. When recipient is liable to pay the tax, we have section 12 subsection 3. When vouchers are issued by the supplier, we have section 12 subsection 4. So almost all supplies are over from the supplier side, but still we don't know any exception can arise anytime. So we have residual cases also. So now this last subsection is residuary cases, those cases which are not covered under above three subsections. Now this is residuary cases. Residuary cases of supply of goods. Residuary means which are neither covered in section 12, subsection 2, subsection 3 or subsection 4. Then what is the date on which supplier is liable to pay the tax? So then you have two different options. Suppose you are that supplier who has to file a return. Now in this case, that means the cases which are not covered above. So what is my first point? If you are that supplier where you are supposed to file the return, where a periodical return has to be filed. Or in any other case. Now when you are that supplier who is under the obligation to file the return, then what is the technically what is the case left now? At least when you are filing the return on that date, we will treat you as the person who has become liable to pay the tax. So the date on which the return is filed is the time of supply. The return is to be filed, not is filed. हो सकता है वो 20 साल ना करे return file. So I should not use the word return is filed. Return is to be filed. This is the time of supply. When you are that supplier who is under obligation to furnish the return at this particular point of time, or by this date, suppose you have to furnish the return of GST, then if I don't have any other option left, then at least that due date by which you have to furnish the return, that will become the time of supply. So when you don't have any option available, what option you have? At least the last date should be that date on which return is to be filed as per the official sections or the provisions of the act. That becomes time of supply. And suppose you are that supplier who is not supposed to furnish the return. You are not supposed to furnish the return then what option you have? At least when tax has been paid. The times of supply is what? When tax is date on which tax is paid. Date on which tax is paid. Situations. Okay, so when now 99.99% cases are by default covered in section 12.2 and 12.3 and 12.4. Still exceptional case can come, and that is why Act says that we have this provision. If you are a supplier who is supposed to file periodical return, then the due date by which that return has to be filed, that becomes time of supply for you. And in any other case where no return has to be filed officially, then in that case tax date on which you have paid the tax, that becomes time of supply. This is my 12.5, and the last, still one last subsection. After this my supply of goods is over. My last subsection is, what about additions or increase in the value of supply? Additions or increase in the value of supply. It is last section 12, subsection 6. Now, how can value of supply be increased? Because of interest, if you have made the payment delayed, late fee, penalty, so many things are there. Let me assume it with the help of an example. A Limited supplies goods to B Limited. Okay, A Limited supplies goods to B Limited. But in that there was a provision that if B Limited does not pay on time, now the goods supplied were, for example, 40 lakh rupees, and there was a provision that if B Limited does not make the payment on time to A Limited, then 1% interest, or let me assume that 2% interest per month will be charged. And for example, B Limited delayed the payment of 40 lakh rupees for 1 month. So for 1 month, do you know how much is the extra amount that will be given by B to A? 80,000. 80,000 is what? Increase in the value of supply. 80,000 is what? Increase in the value of supply. Now, A Limited supplied these goods, for example, on 30th July 2020, and A Limited has not opted for composition levy. On 30th July, goods were supplied, so invoice has to be issued. Now, if this is the point, I hope this example is clear that A Limited is a supplier who has not opted for composition levy. He has supplied goods to B Limited of 40 lakh rupees on 30th July 20. Now, in this case, can you tell me what is the time of supply? I'm not asking about interest of 80,000. For this 40 lakh rupees, I am asking a question from you. Can you tell me what is the time of supply? Can you try to tell me what is the time of supply? It helps in having a revision of yours also. What is the time of supply for this 40 lakh rupees? The goods are movable. What is the time of supply for this 40 lakh rupees? Any answer from your side? What is the time of supply for this 40 lakh rupees? I hope you have forgotten. The answer is time of supply is to be determined First of all, you must know that time of supply in my example has to be determined as per which section? As per section 12.2. Within 12.2, there are two cases. Is the supplier that who has not opted, or is the supplier that is the supplier that who has opted, or is the supplier that who has not opted to pay tax under composition levy? I am the supplier who has not opted to pay tax under composition levy. So what is the date? Earlier of what? Earlier of what? Only two. Actual date of invoice, tax invoice, or last date of issuing tax invoice as per section 31. In this case, since goods are movable, I will apply section 31 subsection 1. And in case of movable goods, what is the last date? Do you know what is the last date? Before or at the time of removal of goods? You have to revise this concern. Before or at the time of removal of goods. This is the last date. So what is the last date? On 30th July. So 30th July is the last date as per section 31. And coincidentally, this is the actual date of invoice also. 30th July 20 is the actual date of invoice also. So what is the earlier date as per section 12.2? So time of supply will be 30th July. This is the answer which I was asking. Time of supply is 30th July 2020 for 40 lakh rupees. Now, I don't know what is the payment date given, but let us assume that 80,000 amount is received for delay. There is a delay of 1 month, but 80,000 amount is received, for example, on 7th November 2020. Then for this 80,000, do you know what is the time of supply? Time of supply is 7th November 2020 for this increase in value. Because as per section 12 subsection 6, whenever we have any addition and increase in the value of supply, then the time of supply is date of receipt. Date of receipt by the supplier. Please raise your hand if the concept is clear. Okay, so I think we should end the discussion, and in the next class, I will wind up section. Yeah, Sushant.
So the last slide, please.
Yeah, I will show you. But after this, I will end the discussion, and in the next class, I will wind up the discussion on section 13. Because since we have covered the determination of time of supply of goods, so supply of services will become a little bit easy. And that's all. In the next class, we will wind up time of supply as per section 13. So let me show you this slide once again. Is it visible, Sushant?
Yes, sir.
So when you will note down, kindly tell me.
So thank you, sir.
Okay. So let us end the discussion and goodbye. Thanks.